Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And taking with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me." And going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. "Sleep and take your rest later on. See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand." And immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Seize him and lead him away under guard." And when he came, he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi." And he kissed him. And they laid hands on him and seized him. Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, pulled it out and struck the high priest's slave, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?" And he touched the man's ear and healed him. And Jesus said to them, "Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. And when some there had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter sat down with them. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him. "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him." A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." "Man, I am not." About an hour later, another asserted, "Certainly this fellow was with him, for he is a Galilean." Then he began to curse, and he swore with an oath, "I do not know this man you are talking about." Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Early in the morning, after forming a plan, the chief priest with the elders and the experts in the law and the whole Sanhedrin tied Jesus up, led him away and handed him over to Pilate. They did not go into the governor's residence so they would not be ceremonially defiled, but could eat the Passover meal. So Pilate came outside to them. What accusation do you bring against this man? They said, if this man were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you. Take him yourselves and pass judgment on him according to your own law. We cannot legally put anyone to death. So, Pilate went back into the governor's residence, summoned Jesus, and asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, are you saying this on your own initiative? Or have others told you about me? I am not a Jew, am I? Your own people, and your chief priest handed you over to me. What have you done? My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my servants would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish authorities. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here. So, you are a king. You say that I am a king. For this reason I was born, and for this reason I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. Pilate said, what is truth? When he had said this, he went back outside to the Jewish leaders and announced, I find no basis for an accusation against him, but it is your custom that I release one prisoner for you at the Passover. So, do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews? For he knew that the chief priests had handed him over because of envy. Then they shouted back, not this man, but Barabbas. Barabbas had been thrown into prison for an insurrection in the city and for murder. So then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged severely. The soldiers braided a crown of thorns and they put it on his head. And they clothed him in a purple robe. And they came up to him again and again and said, Hail, King of the Jews. Ha! They struck him repeatedly in the face and spit on him. Then they knelt down and paid homage to him. Again, Pilate went out and said to the Jewish leaders, Look, I am bringing him out to you so that you may know that I find no reason for an accusation against him. So Jesus came outside wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said, Behold the man. When the chief priests and their officers saw him, they shouted out, Crucify him! Crucify him! You take him and crucify him. Certainly, I find no reason for an accusation against him. We have a law, and according to our law, he ought to die, because he claimed to be the Son of God. When Pilate heard this, he was more afraid than ever, and he went back into the governor's residence and said to Jesus, Where do you come from? But Jesus gave him no answer. So Pilate said, Do you refuse to speak to me? Don't you know I have the authority to release you and to crucify you?" Jesus said, "You would have no authority over me at all unless it was given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed you over to me is guilty of greater sin." From this point on, Pilate tried to release him. But the Jewish leaders shouted out, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Everyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus outside and sat down on the judgment seat in the place called the Stone Pavement. "Here is your king," Pilate said to the Jews. Away with him, crucify him." Why? What wrong has he done? But they shouted more insistently, "Crucify him!" So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." And all the people answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." So Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. They brought Jesus to a place called Golgotha, which is translated place of the skull. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And they crucified 2 outlaws with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by defamed him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who can destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, even the chief priests, together with the experts in the law, were mocking him among themselves. "He saved others, but he cannot save himself. Let the Christ, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, that we may see and believe." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God, since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Now when it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. Around 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And some of the bystanders hearing it said, "This man is calling Elijah." And one of them at once ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Just then, The temple curtain was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion, who stood facing him, saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was the Son of God."